Well, how's it going?
Good. How about you?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Been on the tractor most of the day. Still hot and dry.
You been planting?
Yeah, getting things ready to plant. I'm gonna wait till we get a little bit of rain before I put any seed out. If you don't,
Yeah.
if I go ahead and plant now without any rain, uh, I'll have to sit here and watch the turkey scratch it all up and all that, And uh, so I got where I just wait till I know it's gonna rain before I put it out and get ready, get it all. I'm just kind of getting it prepared and getting it ready. Is it dry over there in your area?
Not really. Like it was raining like every day for weeks.
Yeah.
The oak trees here with the acorns have been something else.
Uh, yeah, I hear a lot of sawtooth oaks are dropping now here and there, which I hadn't checked my sawtooth oaks yet, but I've noticed on the tractor I've seen some water oak dropping pretty good, where I've been.
Right.
But so it's getting about that time.
Yeah, we're overran with red oaks.
Yeah,
I still ain't found no white oaks where I hunt at.
right. Yeah, we had a lot of big white oak trees, but I think a lot of them, half of them, laying on the ground now after that storm came through last September. But we've got a few red oaks, big red oaks, and all. But when they produce, I mean, they'll throw a lot down, but it seems like they only produce every few years. It seems like I don't know, but I don't. About I don't know 3/4 of the big oak trees I had on my place, and I've got a little less than I don't have quite 500 acres, but shoot, over half the big oak trees is laying on the ground now. So I don't know how all that's going to play out with the deer and wildlife.
Yeah, our oak trees here, they've been loaded.
Hmm.
But we got a ton of rain. It's been crazy.
Yeah, well, we were getting rain like we should, but it's I don't know. That was up until maybe a month ago, and it just stopped. And it was kind of cooling off, but it's back to pretty hot there in the daytime now. But some you'll run across a persimmon tree that's loaded, and but they're very far and few between. I mean, just seem like a couple of them done good this year, but most of them didn't. Same way with crab apples. The deer love them. I mean, we used to climb a tree by a good persimmon tree or a crab apple tree that the deer feed up under, and you lose a couple of arrows every time you done that.
Yeah, I got a
We,
persimmon tree. They tore that thing up, man. It was crazy.
yeah, we
It was loaded too this year.
yeah, we killed a pile of bucks with our bows, hunting over persimmon trees in the past.
The only thing I didn't do this year was plant a. I still ain't planted a food plot.
Uh,
I don't know if I will or not. I get. I want to, and then it just don't happen, and you know.
yeah. I played a lot of them. I played a lot of them that just mainly just to give them something when they need it. We don't
Right.
hunt over all of them. I think it doesn't. It helps them out. But in this area, which I've tried all kinds of different stuff over the years, and I've owned this land for 37 or 38 years, and but I've learned that the best thing in this area right here, South Georgia, in my area, is planting winter wheat, and I'll throw in some turnip seed in with it, a little bit of turnip seed, and sometimes I'll add just very little oats, but it just seems like the best thing for them that they like better throughout the whole fall is the winter wheat. I mean, the oats, they'll start good on the oats and rye and all, but about mid-fall, they'll kind of slack off of it. But with the winter wheat, they'll stay on it, and they'll stay on it all during the winter, the fall, the winter, and into, I mean, they'll still be on the winter wheat food plots come February and maybe the first few days in March. And with the oats and all, they'll leave it, I don't know, early December, and they might browse through it a little bit, but they ain't gonna stay on it heavy. Something about it. So that's my go-to seed nowadays. During the fall, winter wheat.
I tried some of the throw and grow food plot, but I never had no luck with it.
Yeah, yeah, they just never. They don't really care for that. I don't know really why, but we've done it just to spruce up the place, make it look better here and there. But never seen any deer. When I see a deer in it, you're just walking through it. Going somewhere. But never seen any stop and feed through it or nothing. But,
I was gonna plant some soybeans this year, but then never got really the time to do it.
right, right. Well, same way here. But I started mowing the back part of my field. I got like a 5-acre field, and which back there in the early spring I had corn and peanuts planted out there, but I couldn't keep the deer out of it. They just I kind of run out of time messing with keeping the deer out. They just tore it all up, and so it's growed up. But I started mowing it today. I'm gonna plow up a couple strips across the field, and I'll plant with some soybeans or something out there, iron clay peas or something, and it'll grow, but until the first frost hits it, it'll quit growing when it gets cold. But the deer, they'll start feeding on it just to give them something, kind of kickstart them, I guess.
Yeah, where I'm at, there's not really any fields at all, so trying to plant a food plot, you can't even get half an acre out of one.
Right.
It's just hard to get one planted where I am. Not much sunlight, and I mean, there's no field. It's just woods.
Yeah.
There ain't really.
Yeah. Yeah. That's about impossible then if you got an area like that. But which
Then it's so thick, trying to get a tractor up in it. That's a task on its own.
right. Well, you got all this red oaks. You talk about.
Yeah.
If they if you find one that's producing and dropping, and just keep an eye on it, and just look at the sign up under. If you find that you may find if you find one that's got a pile of tracks up under it, there's a lot of deer, probably mostly does and yearlings, little bucks. But if you find ones off to the side somewhere and it's got looks like maybe 1 or 2 deer, but they're coming there pretty steady, but it looks like the same size track, that's usually your bigger bucks, this time of year, early in the season. That's how I got a brother. He loves hunting them big red oaks during archery season. Them oaks that only had a track or 2 up under them, It just seemed like them bigger older bucks would be kind of just when the rut's not going on. They're just like they like to be over by themselves, just a little further over.
Do you see the big mature ones hitting the feed trees a lot in daylight?
Well, I do in places that don't have any pressure. You will, but uh, it just depends on the human traffic, in the area, really, with that. Uh, which I know places that had good mature bucks in it, and you wouldn't hardly catch any out at daylight because they was always back. People was always back there messing around, and during the daylight and all. It just like it schooled them bucks. They know when to come out there, but you find a piece of ground somewhere that people don't mess with. Hardly anybody goes around it or goes in their woods. Them deer pretty well are not worried about anything. They feed when when they're ready, daylight or dark. Uh,
Yeah, I see a lot of people they have trouble with. They only come in at night, or you know,
yeah,
a lot of
but
times they'll come in like from what I've seen, especially with people. Some people. A lot of what I've seen is they'll come in and get right after it gets dark. And they come in.
yeah, but you run across people who show you a picture of a big buck. You got on camera, and they've only had they've only had pictures of that same buck at night, and they'll say, he's nocturnal, and it might be October the 10th, early in the season, and not being hunted or nothing. But I tell you, just a quick story. A piece of land I was hunting, and we knew the guy that owned the land next to it, and he showed us a picture of a real nice 9 point. And anyway, he was talking about this buck here. He said, "Man, he's been nocturnal. I cannot see him in the daylight. This is during hunt season, He said, I got a lot of pictures of the buck, but only at night. And I hunt, and I see small bucks, but I don't see him. He's nocturnal. He will not come out at daylight." Well, I looked at the picture, and I looked at my brother, Mike. He said, well, I can't remember the man's name, but Mike said, so, that's the buck Karl killed. In other words, we were on the next piece of property, and I probably killed him maybe, I don't know, 800 yards from where he was getting the pictures of the deer. But while he was hunting the deer, getting pictures of them at night, hunting them right there, saying he's nocturnal, he's there, he's feeding around, walking around there in the daylight on the next piece of property where we hunted.
Right.
So, I mean, which you will have some that mainly only come out at night, but not all. Just because you get a picture of a buck at night doesn't mean that he's strictly nocturnal. He could
Yeah.
be up on the other side of your property or something.
Yeah. A lot
But
of people think they're nocturnal. I really don't think they are.
I mean, them deer will travel.
Oh yeah.
I think they travel a little further than what people believe. Um, and all. Uh, they know the routine. Um, I've got my land here, and probably about 10 years ago, I had a buck. He was a 7 point, and I had pictures of him for 2 years before he was killed. So it's the same buck, it's the same set of horns. He just each year he got a little bigger antler size, a little bit bigger in body. And the third year that I was getting pictures of him, we still hadn't seen him, but I told everybody that sees this buck, he's old enough now, and he's still just a 7 point. Go ahead and take him. But I got pictures of that deer like at 11 o'clock was the last picture I got him. He was with a couple of does on what I call the intersection food plot, which is the very center of my property. Well, the next day I was down the road at the store getting a hamburger, and a guy pulled up and had that same buck in the back of his truck on the dog box. And I looked through the window at him. I walked out and looked at that buck, and it's the exact same buck. I said, "Where'd you kill that buck at?" And he told me. And I'm familiar with that hunting club across the river from my land. I used to be a member of it, but they started running dogs on Thanksgiving Day, and he killed that buck. They put in on a big buck track, and it was probably, I can't remember. I studied how far it was. I think it was 1.25 miles away from where I got the picture at 11 o'clock the night before. Is where they put in on the track going north, and the buck turned around and come right back, heading straight back to the river, and they killed him. So, in other words, that buck, I got a picture of him at 11 o'clock, and from the end of daylight, he traveled 1.25 miles following a doe across the river, and, he got killed. But
Wow.
that, that right there tells you right there. I mean, especially if they're following a doe, they'll go where they need to go. It don't matter. That's what I think.
Yeah, this little spot I got where I'm hunting right now for bow season, really, and gun season. Like the does, that's where they're at. I mean, they're just there. I've had does come in every day, and I had that buck come in. Wasn't too long. These does, they hammer. They got fawns. I mean, they own
Well, I got I got feeders up, and I like to keep a little feed out, and I like feeding them does and them yearlings and all. And I got cameras on them feeders. I keep up with them and all. There's a few different does that I have, and one of them she just showed back up. This first time I got a picture of her last week was the first time I got a picture this summer of her. I don't know where she went, but I thought she was dead because she is 8.5 years old now. I have kept up with her that many years from pictures, and I can tell which one she is because her tongue hangs out her mouth. She's got a problem with her tongue, and I forgot what you call it, but it's kind of normal. There's a lot of deer that have that. It don't affect them or nothing, but when they're feeding, they look normal. But if they just stop, pick their head up, look around, their tongue hangs out, down their side. And but
it.
she's always raised one or two fawns every year. I mean, I've sat there and watched her feed food plots before, could walk through the woods, tongue hanging out. But anyway, I got places where there's mainly does. You will get buck pictures, but I kind of take care of them does, and then when it's time, I'll hunt between that area that where I'm feeding them and where I think the bucks are coming and going out the river swamp. You know, I can't see up there on the hill where the feeders are or the deer. I may be a long ways from, but I'm still catching the bucks coming off the hill going back to the river swamp. Well, I take care of the does, and the bucks will come check them out often. And I'm not bothering the does by hunting that way. They 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 won't even know I'm there. I'll just catch the bucks when they coming or going.
Yeah.
And
Have you ever had success finding some rubs and stuff and putting cameras on buck sign, but never really seeing anything?
yeah, I've done a little bit of all that really, but I've I put pictures on cameras on pawns where they paw the ground, and got pictures of does coming up there, does peeing in it, does pawing it out, pictures of bucks doing the same thing. I've even seen 3 8 points in a row. One with hooking a branch, pawing the ground, and he looks up. He acts spooky. He walks off real fast. Here comes a bigger 8 point, steps up, does the exact same thing, and he looks up. He gets a little spooky. He walks off fast. Here comes a big 8 point. But me and my wife sit there and watch 3 8 points do that at the same branch, pawing it all. And I put cameras on where I can see what's rubbing a certain size tree. I found a big persimmon tree that was rubbed. It was tore up. I put a camera on it, and I got pictures of probably every buck on my land rubbing that tree. There might be 4, 5, 6 different bucks that one night come out there and rub that tree. Then the next night it'd be 2 different bucks, and it was just one of them family rubs, I guess. but but I hadn't had a whole lot of luck really just hunting, finding like buck rubs or buck paws and hunting over them as far as seeing much really. Though I do like to see them and find them. I know a buck's in there. He's using that area pretty heavy somewhere.
Right.
Uh,
I've tried placing some cameras on a few of them. Didn't really have success with it. I went back to just making mock scrapes and hunting where the does are and where they feeding at. And I started getting bucks on cam. So
yeah, yeah, the bucks will come check them does out. Uh, your mature bucks will. You may see more of your younger bucks because the mature bucks, they pretty well they've been through this year after year a few times. They know that still might be a little early, but when it's the right time, you'll be surprised what will show up, when the time is right. Um, but they and and they'll show up anywhere when it's right.
Yeah, I used to run a feeder, but I quit doing it because I mean it got so bad with the nocturnal stuff that like mine. Like it got so bad when I'd run a feeder, it got so bad the does would only come in at night. It was crazy.
Hmm.
And then
Well, yeah,
I got like 5 people that hunt with guns only around me that use feeders. It's just a
well, if you got a small piece of land and people are hunting all the way around you, and they've got feed out, and your land's kind of like a thicker area, you really don't need to worry about none of that. To be honest with you, them deer are probably going to end up now. If you don't do a whole lot of walking, they're going to end up on that ground you're hunting. If all the people around you's hunting and driving in, walking all around and all that, going in there putting feed out, and all that, them deer are going to learn. They'll pattern them quick. They'll learn to be that thicket over there where your place is during the daylight. So it really depends on the property and how much land you have available and what's around you. You know, uh, I got a lot of does on my land, and I got a lot of bucks on my land. I mean, I probably got too many does and too many bucks, to be honest with you, because I mean every year it's the last 6 or 7 years probably every year they'll from right now they'll start sparring and they'll start breaking their antlers. And by the time say the first weekend of gun season, shit, about half of the bucks gonna be all broken up that you see. We had two real nice 8 points last year that it's the guys that hunts with me. If they'd killed them, they would have mounted them, but they didn't kill them because when they seen them, they only had one side of the rack, and so they wouldn't shoot them. But the weekend before, had pictures of them and they were fine, both sides and all. But it's just too many bucks that start getting broken up a lot. But but everybody around me, they shoot does and they shoot. Most of them just deer hunt. Don't matter, they shoot. And I think the deer have learned that, like I said, I got that one doe. I know she's 8.5 now, and we had a doe and seen her for about 6 years and knew who she was because both of her front legs were white. So I mean, they learn they know where they're safe and don't get bothered with. I think, in my mind.
yeah. I try to keep the pressure real low, checking cameras and try not to bump deer out.
Right. That's one thing where a lot of people mess up. They come into an area and they think they need to scout it every weekend or something. Or they might hunt in the morning time and go climb down a scout, find a good place with a deer or and all. And all they're really doing is just messing their chances of seeing a good buck, a mature buck. I mean, he comes along there and smells where you'd walk. I mean, he's going to be on the lookout and he's going to lay low a few days. And he comes through there again a few days later and smells where you've been again. He'll just stay back in the back somewhere. But definitely limit the walking and messing around.
Yeah,
So I tell everybody do that when it's not hunt season. But,
I check my camera every Sunday, but other than that, I'm never on it. Never in there.
yeah, and I've got stands. I got a stand down near the river that normally every time uh well, I used to every time I hunted it for the first time I always killed a real good buck out of it. Every year the first sitting, but I've always and that was up until probably the last 3 years. I really don't hunt it that much, but I always waited for the first cool morning of November because that's when the wind direction would be right to start with. You know, you slip in there and hunt it, and they won't never know you're there. But I wouldn't. I know the bucks was there, but if I went when the weather wasn't right, uh, if the wind been coming out of the west or the south, it, they would know I was there. You know, it'd mess it up. But I always waited. You know, but I'd always kill a good buck doing that. You know, but I just stay away from it. You know, but they would come. What they were doing, they were coming out of a slough from the river and crossing a strip, a food plot, and going over on the sand ridge and eating acorns. And then after daylight in the morning times, they're just heading back towards that slough. You know, but if you went in there when the wind wasn't, when the weather wasn't right, you wouldn't see nothing. I mean, they'd go the other direction. You know, but you definitely have to limit your walking and scouting and so forth when it's time to be hunting.
Oh yeah, yeah. I try to stay out as much as possible, and when I go check a camera, when I do go check it, I go when a time I know they ain't in there.
Right. Yeah, that's me. During the middle of the day, I need to go do something. It's usually like at 1 o'clock. You know,
Right.
the chances are running up face to face with one. It's very unlikely at that time, but it could happen. But you sure don't want to walk in there right at daylight or right before dark. We have a couple of food plots. We have. If my wife's hunting them in the evening time and the deer come out in the evening, if they're still there at dark, she'll text me and she'll just sit there until I pull up in the truck because I just feel like if I pull up with my trucks with a headlight, not like I'm trying to be quiet, I just go about like it's like a normal day or something. And I pull up there with the headlights and just turn around or something with the truck. They'll look at me and they'll hop out the food plot, go in the woods and all. And then she'll climb down out the stand, get in the truck, quietly get in the truck and we'll ease off. And by the cameras and all that, and just 15 minutes later, all of them starting to come back in the food plot. Now, but if she climbs down out of that stand, and them deer out there in that food plot see her and smell her, they'll go to blow and they'll run off, and they won't come back till it would be 3-4 hours later, So, but so I got where on some of the food plots, I'll tell them, if them deer out there, just text me, I'll come get you because I'd rather run them off with a truck than them see you coming out of that stand and running them off. But I think that makes a difference too. They see you coming out of a tree stand, a couple of times, and they won't forget that.
Have you ever bow hunted the rut?
Yeah, I have. Like not the main rut, but like pre-rut I have, and I've been. And what makes it so good if you catch it when the weather's right, if it's good and cool. Uh, I've I've bow hunted on the oak ridges and when the weather's nice and cool in the evening time, boy, them little bucks is after them does. But I've never seen a big mature buck until closer to the main rut, you know. And that's another thing about the rut is what I've learned. You got a doe, she's it's kind of like a dog. A dog will come and I guess, a week and stays at heat for a week and goes out for a week. But a deer is kind of like that, but it's only a 3-day thing. You got a doe that's coming in heat during one day, 24 hours, and she'll have bucks chasing her, following her, but she will not let them. She will not stop and let them breed her. Okay, and you may have a big mature buck, and he may follow, be right on her, just going wherever. And then the next day, when she's in heat, she'll let him breed her, and he may breed her 4 or 5 times throughout the day and that night. But she'll stay in heat for like 24 hours, and then the third day she's going out of heat, and the buck is still with her, trying to breed her, but she won't let him. Um, I've learned that over the years, and then after that third day, uh, that old buck he'll just walk and walk until he'll find another one that's coming in. Um, and so he may be the biggest, oldest buck in the woods, but he's not breeding all you do. He might breed his share of them though. But and I've even seen different bucks breed the same doe in one day. Um, but so actually, what people believe the rut is just one day. It's actually longer than that, because that's how each doe is, 3 days. Then you might have a date where, say, November the 12th in some areas, where the majority of the does are coming in during that particular 3-day period. But you're gonna have some does that's gonna come in a week, half week sooner than that. Then you're gonna have some younger does come in a week later. But it's all, it's gonna be a little. It's longer than a 1 day ordeal. That's one thing I did when I bought my land in 1988, and I got a book, and I write down every deer that's been killed off my land and off the lease land that I lease. And you can look through that book, and all the big mature bucks, and I say mature bucks, I'm talking 5-year-old bucks or older, that we killed, all of them we've killed while they were following a doe or with a doe. And we've killed them. If you look and just wrote down the dates on a different piece of paper, and then look at the dates, we killed them from the first day of gun season, which is around October the 20th here where I'm at, until the last day of gun season, which is usually around January the 12th or something. But we kill them throughout the entire hunt season over that period of time that I've owned the land. I mean, but every one of the mature big bucks, we pretty well, I'd say 99% of them we've killed. They were following it. They was where the doe, and we've killed quite a few over the years. But so so you can catch a doe coming in really about any time, but the chances of that is going to be slim, because unless you're in the woods every day during the hunt season. Um, but you're only going to have that's only going to happen on a certain percentage. Majority of them going to come in, at that one time, really. But man, I've seen them. I've seen three three big bucks chase a doe one morning, and I didn't get a shot at any of them, but they chased her, and it was like 2 days before Christmas, and I had killed a buck, a big buck, older buck, that hunt season, the first day of hunt season, following a doe. But the main thing is you just got to be out there all you can, really. So it's just a matter hunt the best days, you know.
Do you think the barometric pressure makes a difference on how they move?
Yeah, but I do. But I've got a brother that he can sure tell you about that more. Um, 'Cause I don't really keep up with it, but I do notice. I have noticed that he swears by it, and I believe him because it just seems like when it's the right time, when they're supposed to, as far as what he says, we normally see a little more than normal, you know. Um, Now, you know, like the deer in this county where I hunt, well, they may do things totally different than deer that are 70 miles west of here or whatever. You know, the timing of the main rut might be a little different. And, they may feed on different things there than they do here. You know, they're all just every area is a little bit different. I mean, everything's not exactly the same. But now up here, if I mean, I've hunted before, and the weather was bad. Not you wouldn't see a deer. I mean, you wouldn't see a deer for anything for 2 days. Just hot weather, just and over. Then one afternoon, the wind's blowing. You know, you think, well, it's gonna rain, and it said it's supposed to rain, and it'll rain that night. And then that front will move on through, and you wake up next morning, and it's nice and cold. And you go hunt that morning, and it seems like the deer are behind every tree out there. You know, they're everywhere. But you hunted good and long for 2 days straight and didn't see a deer. All of a sudden, the only thing changed was a front came in and passed through, and the weather got good. And now when I lived in Florida, North Florida, them deer around there, they moved when it, the weather didn't bother them like it does the deer around here. I mean, you could bow hunt down there. I mean, I would have me 3 spots to bow hunt down there, and I mean, I'd put string out, like sewing string thread. I would tie it tree to tree on my way to my stand, you know, certain areas, and when I get through hunting, I'd come back by and check at my other stand and see if any deer's coming in there. And that's before, you know, I could afford to buy cameras, you know, and I said, well, this string's broke. Deers came here, you know, so I might hunt it that evening. And but if you go back there and hunt 5 times, uh, out of 5 sittings, you probably gonna shoot out of two of those sittings, you're gonna shoot, you know, your bow. And the weather might be hot, mosquitoes, and just terrible weather, you know. But it just didn't affect the deer down there like it does here. You come up here and hunt like that, you wouldn't hardly see anything, you know, till it cooled off some. Just a few degrees cooler makes a difference around here.
Yeah, it's kind of the same way here.
Are they like that too? Yeah.
Yeah, they don't move much when it's hot here, but when the cold front hits, they everywhere.
Yeah, that's how it is here. But down there, North Florida, where I used to live, it didn't matter. I mean, a cold front, they'd move good, but you still gonna see them the same when it was warm and all. And when you wouldn't see a thing up here, you know.
Do you ever use e-scouting, like on a map, like Onyx, for example, like the topo lines to find good
Yeah.
spots?
Now I don't hear because I know the land also good. Yeah, but I do if I get another piece of property to hunt or get invited or something to hunt somewhere, and if it was up to me to find a location to put a stand or something, I do. I'll start off, you know, by like an aerial photograph or something, you know, on my phone or any like bottlenecks or anything like that. You know, that's what I look for to start with. You know, how the creek or any creeks or rivers or whatever runs, you know, any bottoms and all. Just kind of get a layout of the property to start with, and then, you know, then kind of kind of fine point it,
Right.
About where I think the deer should be crossing if they're, such like that. But I don't
What
really do it here or do it anymore because I mainly just hunt this place. You know,
What do you think some mistakes are for people entering a stand that spook deer or blow deer out?
like as they walk in the stand to hunt.
Yes, sir.
Um, well, I think number one thing is you'll see more deer if you check the wind and go by the wind as far as which trees to hunt out of. Which stand. Um, that's the main thing right there. And I don't never walk rubber boots or whatever. You don't never walk if you can't help it. If you got to go 100 yards further or whatever, and I'll do it. I'll walk way around or something, but never walk where you think the deer are going to be feeding or walking through. Cause man, some of them older deer, it don't take nothing for that. They still smell when you walk through there for a step. They definitely don't want to lean up or touch and hold on to anything. Anything you touch or rub up against is going to hold your scent for a little longer. But
So they can still spot that out even if the wind and thermals is perfect.
yeah, they shoot. There's no telling. If I had always hunted by the wind like I like to do, which I always try, but I don't always do it. There's no telling how many more deer I would have seen in my lifetime. You know, but I sit and stand before and hear deer blow way off behind me or something. I always had a cigarette lighter in my pocket because I always like checking the wind when I'm sitting there. And I mean, it'll make me get up and move, if the wind's not right. And I'll check the wind, and the wind's right to where that deer is blowing at. So I got a good idea that deer smells me. But I mean, I've sit and I decide where to hunt some mornings by which way the wind's blowing. I said, well, the wind's right for me to go over here and hunt this stand. I go sit and hunt that stand and see 4 or 5, 6 bucks walk across the strip, the first few hours. I killed a big buck, big 8-point one following a doe. Killed him probably about 9:30 that morning. But I'd have seen, he was like the 5th buck I seen walking back and forth across this. It was like an old woods road that went down a hill. And it was just small rat bucks I seen, and a doe come walking straight out. That good 8-point was right behind her, about 2 foot behind her, just walking. And he was in the middle of that road when I shot him, and he dropped right there. And I just sit where I was sitting on the ground. I didn't move. I just stayed there. And about 30 minutes later, it seemed like everything calmed down. I seen another buck, and I remember seeing another buck because I saw him at the very end of that road. He stepped out, and he had a rack. He wasn't a big one, but when he stepped out, he looked like a big one. And I threw up. Took my safety off. I threw it up. I had my rifle, and I looked at him through the scope, and he was a little 8-point, but he had a stick stuck in his antlers. I guess he tore a little bush up or something, had a stick stuck, and it made it look like he had a big old rack. But I said, man, look, he about got shot because he really looked like a big buck, but he was about, I don't know, I'd say 100, probably about 160 yards away. He stepped out at the very end of that road. Though he looked big. But anyway, he looked down there at that buck, and he walked towards me and stood there, looked at him, and then he went on his business. A little later, I seen another one, and then all of a sudden, I just quit seeing any deer. And I sat there about 45 minutes. I says, no, I don't know why I ain't seen no more deer. So I put out my cigarette lighter, and yep, it had a little slight breeze. I couldn't tell it, but that fire could. It was just going down that road. So I said, well, I ain't gonna sit here and mess this spot up because it's a good spot. I got up. I said, "There's a across the road right there. There's a ground blind." I said, "I'll go check it out." Anyway, I hurried on down there and drug that 8 point off to the side where he just ain't out there laying in the sun. You know, I walked on up there and got on my junk and I walked on, went across the road there, and I got right there by that blind. I seen a fresh running deer track that looked like a buck track, and there was another track there that looked like smaller. So I thought, that's probably a buck chasing doe. I said, but that track looks fresh. So I got real quiet. I eased around and got in that blind. I took my rifle sling off. I leaned my rifle up against the blind, and I got out my grunt call. And I made one little light grunt, and then I set my grunt call down. I picked my rifle up, and another 8 point stuck his head out down there about 50 yards from me. He stuck his head out of some pines, some thickets that I couldn't see. I couldn't see his body. I could just see his neck and his head. And he looked right down at me. Anyway, well, he went back to the camp with me too. I mean, I was up sitting over there, and it was a good, lively morning, a great morning, and all of a sudden it seems like you hit the switch, it goes dead, and all it was just the wind had changed. The deer were smelling me, and they quit crossing that road. So I went back, and the wind was right to hunt that ground blind, and that's why that buck never run off or blew. He was there chasing the doe, and when I made that little light grunt, he thought another buck, was right there. But he couldn't smell it because the wind was coming back from him. But so it made all the difference in the world that morning. It does a lot of morning.
Have you ever tried the powder wind indicator?
No, I know what you're talking about. I've seen people that have used them, and it looked like it worked good. I just have never tried them myself. But people, they pulled them out. I've seen them do it and all. And you can see it, gliding down to the ground right how the wind's blowing. But I've never used it myself. But it looks like it would work. But
I've used the cigarette and the powder. The only thing I don't like about the cigarette lighter is you can't tell really what the thermals is doing. Like I've used the powder stuff, the powder one,
yeah,
and like the wind be dead, like it's not moving any, and you hit the bottle, squeeze it, and then like that powder won't even move it. It'll just float up. The thermal's going up.
right.
And
Yeah, that'd be your best bet if you want to check all that like that. I mean, like I said, I know people that's had it, used it. It looked like it worked good. I've never got any. I usually just had a lighter in my pocket just for that reason. But I mean, if you want to kill a good buck, you definitely got to watch for that wind. Uh,
oh yeah,
you know, which I've killed some good bucks. Most of them's been following a doe. I killed a real good 10 point morning. That was he had chased a doe, and that poor doe, she come right up underneath me. It looked like he'd been chasing her all night long. Her tongue was hanging out. I had slobber and foam all over. Uh, he come up there, had his tongue hanging out. He stopped right underneath my tree stand. But he been running her for a while. But that buck was he was a 5.5 year old 10 point. But how I knew he was coming, it was damp that morning. You couldn't hear nothing, but I seen some coons walking around. They were walking through it was that creek swamp. I was hunting an old creek swamp, and them two coons out there playing around. They was walking, and all of a sudden they both stood up on their hind legs, looking back towards the creek, and they were looking like they heard something. Boy, they both went climbing the tree. So I went ahead and I went to looking and looking. I turned my scope down thinking something might be running through here, Turned my scope down a little bit and it was that 10-point chasing that doe. But it had just happened to come right up underneath me though. But I don't know. I don't know how my scent was going that morning. I never checked anything, but I know he stopped. Well, both of them did right up underneath me, so I'm kind of thinking they might have just caught my scent as soon as they got there. They just slammed on brakes, But it was too late for them to do anything.
Yeah. So for bow hunting, what do you think? What's three things that make a great bow hunter?
I think you need to. I think you need to play the wind and watch your scent. If you do both, I think you'll be much better off. But I think knowing the land that you hunt makes a world of difference. If you know, say you got I don't know, 100-acre piece of land that you can hunt, and you got oak trees. Say you got some live oak trees in the center, and they drop acorns every year. You you pretty well know you can go there and climb one of them trees, But in other words, the main thing I think you got a piece of land, and for it to be any kind of real successful hunters, you need to limit your walking and disturbing everything in the woods. Make a big difference. But I've got a brother that he and I we used to bow hunt every chance we could, he's killed a pile of big bucks. Uh, he's always watched his scent and went about hunting whichever end of the woods or edges of the fields he hunted he'd go by the wind direction and all. But there's no telling how many times he's walked in the woods and climbed a oak tree and stood on a tree limb and killed a big buck, without a tree stand or anything, just standing and leaning up against another limb.
Yeah.
I've tried it. I'd rather have a comfortable seat, to be honest with you, but
Oh, I got one climbing stand that don't even have a seat in it. You stand the whole time.
really,
Yeah.
well, I've gotten a little too old for that.
Yeah.
But I've done that before now.
It
Believe me.
it isn't my favorite thing to hunt out of.
Yeah, used to love that bow hunt so much. If I had one good arrow and a broadhead on it, I'd go. You know, it wouldn't. I said, well, I have to make this one arrow count. But we used to do that bow hunting every chance we could, and we used to always get a lot of enjoyment out of it. But I just don't. We don't get the opportunity to go as much bow hunting like we used to. Probably about the last 7 or 8 years we hadn't. He or me.
Dang.
I still got my bow, and I was thinking about trying to shoot it and going some this year, but I hadn't had time to see if I could pull it back yet. Archery season started last Saturday up here.
Yeah.
Last week.
Our bow season's October 15th.
Yeah, our gun season probably opens around October 20th or something like that, whichever day falls on Saturday. But archery season opens last Saturday, and it will stay open until gun season opens. But they've got it now where you can muzzleload hunt as well. That last week, archery season, you can muzzleload hunt. But up here where I'm living now, the best time to bow hunt. I mean, we've killed decent bucks the first weekend we bow hunted in the past, but always the funnest time to bow hunt up here is usually the whole last week of archery season, which is the middle of October. Especially if you have cool, some good decent cool weather. You'll usually see them bucks chasing them does, grunting, and I like sitting there watching that. I've had them good cool afternoon there in the middle of October. I remember sitting in the oak tree, had 4 bucks running does all the way around me on the oak ridge one evening. Grunting, just carrying on. They was putting on a show. But it's always been the best time to bow hunt right here in my area that last week. I think majority of those come in probably right there at the end of October, I think, here. I want to say 28th, 29th. It seems to me like it varies every year a day or two. But then again, and as I was talking about the weather and how it affects the deer up here is the rut's going to go on regardless if it's 85 degrees or 38 degrees, but you'll notice more of the rut going on if it's 38 degrees rather than be 85 degrees, if it's real hot and just bad weather, I mean, most of the rutting activity is going to be done at night. They're not going to carry on during the day, during the heat, as much as they would. I've seen deer, and just to prove about the heat and the deer, I've seen deer lay in the shade and bend down, lay on the ground in the shade, and then I've seen it when the sun goes behind a dark cloud, the deer would get up and go out into a clearing there and feed until that dark cloud passes, and then that sun gets bright again. Then I go right back over there to the shade and lay down. I've seen that several times. So that tells me them deer really, really don't like that heat, that sun on them hot days like that.
Right. What do you think about the moon phases? Do you think it plays a role in it, or how they move and act?
Yeah, yeah. I think it does, but and I used to try to years ago. My brother and I used to try to go about it. Our hunting a little different with the moon and all, and he still does. He still tells me, certain phases and stuff. But one of them we are, I used to believe in, full moon, the deer fed all night, and they're gonna feed that great. But we've had too many mornings after a full moon that I know one year, every one of us that was hunting that morning during a full moon, the first morning hunt season, killed a good buck. And then that evening, we had opportunities to kill bucks and all during the full moon. So, I mean, he may tell me, well, the deer ain't gonna move that good because such moon or something, but I'm still gonna go hunting if I'm wanting to go hunting.
Right.
But yeah, I think it will. If it's the right moon would may affect you. You might see more deer. If the moon was right. But and another thing I've learned, and I know you've had to hear it too. A lot of people say that, well, the cows are up feeding, the deer's up feeding. Well, I've uh, I've seen the deer up feeding when the cows lay down quite a few times.
Yeah.
I think that's just kind of a wise tale that was told, and it's just carried on over the years. But I still hear people say it. But I don't think it really affects. It matters I don't think the deer really care what the cows are doing, in other words. But I mean, I know people that has raised deer their whole life, and will tell you that too. You see enough of them, watch them enough, you'll learn a lot. Yeah, you'll learn that a lot that you hear. Yeah, you hear people say. It's some stuff that you read. It's not necessarily true.
Have you ever noticed on their antlers, like let's say you get a good trail cam picture where you can see it? Do you think the color of their antler depends on like where they might be bedding or majority of their time spent? Like if the antler's real dark brown, you think that could mean real thick covered, not a lot of sunlight? And then like if it's pretty colored white, they could be more out in the open with
I
sunlight.
think I think that the color of the antlers they normally get that from what they're rubbing, and also how much they rub. Um, I've noticed over the years that some bucks that do not rub much at all seem to have your whiter looking antlers, and ones that rub certain types of trees may have a different, like a darker set or something. But some of them antlers, you can, if you kill a deer, you can take an antler sometimes and put it in the sink and run you some warm water, some dish soap, and wash a lot of that. Some of that is just like stained from dirt and from like getting like a maybe pine sap or something on it, and that kind of it's got stained from the dirt and just stuff like that. You could wash a lot of that off. Uh, but I think a lot of us do. It's mainly for what they're rubbing, certain types of trees and all. And there again, if you know the lands you hunting, if you got a wide piece and you got certain types of trees in a certain area on that land, and you kill them bucks every year that has certain color horns, they might be getting it from rubbing them trees in that area right there. Whether than deer that bucks that hang out on the other side of the property, if you got a large piece of parcel of land, they might not have much to rub on us other than just little small little bushes and stuff. Uh, I seen a buck one time rub just about every dog fennel in a field and broke them all up. Just now, I'm sure he rubbed other things, but I know one particular week it seemed like he rubbed nothing. It seemed like he had something against some dog fennels growing up. He broke every one of them down. It was probably it was a big patch of dog fennels in the field. It was probably, I say, probably 30 about 30 foot wide, about 50 foot long. A patch of dog fennel just growed up about from anywhere from around 5 foot. I say around 5 foot, but that one buck he broke them all down. I don't know if it has something to do with the scent or what, or why he just decided just to, maybe he's just showing off. I don't know. I mean, I've killed a couple of bucks in the past that's rubbing trees, when I shot them, and but it's always been little pine saplings. But they'll rub. I was around here. They'll rub persimmon trees a lot. There's some cedar trees that they'll rub. Just they'll rub pines, but it seems like they rub a lot of small hardwood trees and stuff around here.
Yeah.
And we tend to kill bucks that's got, some of them will have you darker color antlers, and some of them will have not as dark, but they are dark antlers. So they tend to be on the darker side, most of the deer around in this area. But I think that's mainly from the rubbing the pine saplings and the persimmon trees.
What would you define woodsmanship as?
Do what now?
What would you define woodsmanship as?
Oh, well, man, I'm always happy for anybody killing a deer. If that person's happy with that deer, you know, that's one of my best things about it. You know, is just seeing how exciting someone gets over killing a buck. You know, I mean, I've seen some people that kill a buck that ain't out like it's nothing. You know, and I don't know. I just I just like to see people get excited, and that makes me want to. I've always just got along with people, uh, and always helped them. I mean, I I've taken so many people and put them in stands that skilled deer before, but I have always put them in places that I would hunt, places that I would like to hunt. You know, I've never taken someone and put them in a stand that I thought wasn't no good. But I think that everybody ought to really be ought to be just natural good. I mean, not be greedy, which you see that a lot, and that really gets to me. I don't like that, you know. But I've always been helpful and glad somebody kills a buck. Never hurt my feelings, you know. I just feel like everybody ought to be they shouldn't feel like they're going out their way to help somebody or something, you know.
Right.
It's just like here on my land, I let I let people come on my land because my property fronts a river and they like to fish in that river. I always stop and tell them, I said, look here, I said, I don't mind you coming in here fishing the river, but please don't leave no trash. That's all I ask. You know, I mean, that, and I feel like that's what they ought to do. The landowner just asked them to do one thing, that's take the garbage out with them that they brought in, you know. I think that if I was fishing somebody's property or hunting and that was the landowner's only request, I would make sure it's done, you know,
Oh
if
yeah.
I left it out there or not, you know. But I just feel like a lot of people they a lot of people just get greedy and they just don't care. That's what messes it up for other people. But that's in anything though, you know.
Right.
But I'll stop and congratulate somebody on a buck they killed, especially a little kid, you know. And I just think it's cool, you know.
Hey, if they kill a fawn and that makes them happy, you know.
Then I'm happy, you know.
I
That's
mean,
how I see it.
if the one with spots makes them happy, you know.
Yeah, I mean, ain't no, I ain't gonna say what I really say, but the way I really feel. But if they were happy, especially a young kid, I wouldn't be worried about it. If he killed a yearling in his first deer and he was tickled to death, and that thing has spots on it, I just think, man, that's a fine looking deer, buddy. Congratulate you, know.
But if it's a grown man, I kind of got to bully him about
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I'd have to say a little something about that. Now, if it was a grown man and he was tickled and happy with it, I'd I'd still say something about it, but I'd say it nicely.
Right.
But he act like he could care less about killing it, but he killed it anyway. You know, then I'd have to tell him about it. But anyway, it's just but you don't never know. There's all different types of people out there,
Right. I mean, as long as they're happy with it, you know, that's all that matters.
right?
fill that freezer up.
Yeah. We ate their meat tonight. It was mighty good. Yeah, I'm sure it comes from a big old nasty buck. Some people say, I don't want none of that big old nasty buck meat. I didn't have a problem with it. They, they might have should have got them a wife that can cook. That's all I can tell them. Because I did.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I don't. Maybe they just ain't cooking it right. I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's good. Some of the best meat you can eat.
Probably the healthiest too.
Oh yeah, it is.
From what I've
Yeah,
heard, the Vincent's really healthy.
yeah, that's what they say. I mean, it, it's just like bear meat. I've killed bear before. We've eaten bear, and people have sat down and eaten bear meat with me, and it was their first time eating. And they get up and they say, "Karl, that was some good meat." I I'd kind of like to go bear hunting now, but it's just a matter of how it's cooked, you know. I've eaten bear meat. I remember eating when I was a teenager. A couple of guys cooked some bear meat one time, and I got a piece of it, and and I ate about 2 pieces, and that was just I was just trying to be nice, but that stuff was nasty.
Yeah, I mean
But
it'd be like eating chicken from McDonald's compared to Chick-fil-A.
yeah, but now, and I've eaten it several times. People know how to cook it, and it's delicious. I mean, it's really good. But it's just like turkey breasts and duck, everything can come out of the wood. Uh, somebody don't know how to cook and mess anything up.
Yeah.
But I've eaten a lot of wild critters before, and I've always been pretty pleased with it.
They gotta be able to have the kitchen woodsmanship.
You're right about that, no doubt. Oh yeah, it does you good though. I had a brother that's about all he ever ate was and that's the truth, is the fish that he caught, or the deer, or the hog that he killed, or the vegetables that he grew in his own garden. He very seldom bought anything from the grocery store like meat or vegetables. I mean, just about every bit of that he got it from the wild or from his garden. But that's how it used to be at one time in this country, really.
Yeah. Now it's all fast food junk.
Yep. People ain't got time.
It's
But if we go off on a trip or something. One thing I'm ready for when I get back home, and I'm ready for a good home cooked meal.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just to me, you can't beat it. I can eat some fast food, but it just a certain amount's enough. I don't see how them people eat it day in, day out like they do.
Right.
But so every year, I got to make sure I got me some meat from the woods.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got some in my
Even
freezer that needs to be cooked up.
you I'm gonna get me some, even if I have to kill one of them with spots.
You might not get much.
Yeah, I wouldn't, but I, I see them out here in the yard too often. Bucks, right? Bucks, and I get that desperate, at night. But it ain't come down to that yet.
Yeah, you sent me that one picture of that buck that was like in the yard or something. It was like in front of a trailer, you know?
Yeah, I don't remember, but
And
yeah,
I
they
was like, how in the? I mean, I know it's at night, but I'm like, how's this buck that comfortable like that? I'm lucky to get a picture of one in thick brush woods where I'm at, man. That's how
they
bad it is where I'm at with the
for real.
predator, everybody around.
But every year, just there's like a group of bucks that grow up, and just like this year, there was a little spike, and there was three little rat bucks, but there was two bigger older bucks. I say probably 4-year-old bucks. Well, they grow up right here in the yard at night. They're in my field, they're around my dog pens, they're around the pond here. They're out there from early spring all through spring, summertime. Here about 2 weeks ago, they kind of left this area. They've gone back further back in the woods. They're in there, but they're out of velvet now. When they come out of velvet, they start doing things different, you know. But every year, okay, next year, say them two older bucks get killed this year. Next year, those younger bucks that was here this year, they'll be back up here during next spring, and there might be a one or two another young bucks coming up will be with them, but they'll be here until they get old enough that they'll get hunted and killed or whatever. But I'll go out there. They'll get used to me being around this area so much that if I'm doing the same thing that I normally do and I'm not bothering them, they kind of get used to me. Now, if my dogs go out there with me or something unusual goes about, you will not be able to ride up on them like I do because they'll know it. They'll move on off before I get there. But I have ridden by them on my 4-wheeler at night, shine my light on, and they'll be 12 yards away from me and just stand there and look at me. I mean, I'm talking a 4-year-old buck, but stand there and look at me, and I just ride off, and he'll go back to feed.
Yeah.
But I think he's learned my routine of what I would do up here, like on the tractor, so forth. Anything I do in the yard, I think he's got used to it, and I think he's also learned my scent. He's learned my scent. He knows it's me, and it don't bother him. Now, if I was to stop on a 4-wheeler and get off, do something different, that would probably bother him. But as long as I don't get off and I just ease on off, he's good. And but I've seen like that every spring and summer like that. And but when they come out of velvet, they start to kind of they start breaking away from each other. And they'll change their patterns when they come out of velvet. And you may see a doe with a this year's fawn, and then she's got her last year's fawn, which is a 1-year-old buck now, and he might be like a 4-point in velvet, and he's still with her though. But when he starts coming out of velvet, he all of a sudden disappears. You'll see her and that fawn, but not him no more with her. And he comes out of velvet, he changes. But every deer, doe, buck, or whatever, when they go from 2-year-old to 3-year-old, they are totally different. They act different. They look different. Their bodies are different. Everything changes in them. Just
Okay.
everything they do, the way they look, the way they act, everything changes when they hit 3 years old. But they'll just start doing different things and just change everything. But it's just something how them deer they grow up. They got plenty of feed out there in the field, and which they'll come up here right here by the house, by the pond, drink water when they need to. Like right now, they probably get when they start having to come up here and drink water out the pond because there's only probably a little bit of water left in the creek right down here below the field, but because it's dry. But once it gets totally dry down there, they will come up here. They'll be up here at the pond every night. You'll go out there and see when they walk all through the yard and everything. And I got a dog pen down there on the edge of the field. I plant peas, white acre peas, and pink eyes, black eyes, and stuff. for us. I couldn't even grow any, but I planted the peas right next to the dog pen, hoping that, and the deer had to come by the dog pen to get to them, hoping that they wouldn't mess with them. They'd feed on everything else out there. But no, they eat every one of the peas up. They know them dogs cannot get out that pen. They'll come right. Last year, right after dark, my dogs was raising hell down there. I got jumped on a 4-wheeler, got my light, and I ran down there to see what's going on. As soon as I turned off the road, turned to shine on the headlights on the 4-wheeler to the dog pen, there was 2 big bucks standing right there on the edge of the corn, right by the dog pen. They stood there looking at me, and I stopped and turned the headlights back on. And when I did that, they both of them just turned and they started walking down the corn rows away from me. But my dogs was barking at them because they could smell them and see them right there. But them deer didn't care, They know they can't get out them pens.
Right.
But they pick up on that. They learn from it. But I ride out there at night a lot, just with a light, just shine around the field, just ride around the field and come right back, just to look at the deer. I do enjoy seeing them.
Yeah, they are fun to watch.
Yeah. But I was back there. I mowed with a tractor today, right there on the edge of the field. I'm gonna try to burn that strip off and plant me some peas, like I was telling you, for the deer. But right there by them persimmon trees, man, I had a big old paw there on the ground. Some of them bucks. Shit, it was big. It's probably 3 foot wide, about 5 foot long. They had a dirt kicked everywhere. I thought I'd put a camera on it just to see, I think it's more than one buck doing it because it's so big.
Right.
Or, but I was surprised it's one of them. You'll find a big old pond like that once in a while, real deep, and just you see where the dirt's kicked 5 foot away, stuff like that. That's like that one. I shined a light out there when I got home last night. I didn't see any deer. That was the first time I hadn't seen a deer all summer out there. But my grandkids, they come up here. They like to get on that 4-wheeler, be riding around the field, shine a light on them deer, let them look at them deer. Pop up, buck. I said, yeah, I see you. All right, man. Well, I guess I'm gonna let you go. I need to head down and I'm fixing to run check a hog trap that I had to check today.
All right.
But you got my number. I'll keep your number. I'll put it in my phone. But just give me a call sometime. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
I appreciate you getting on.
yeah, I appreciate you asking me. Let me send me some pictures of that big buck. You pictures of that.
I
I want
definitely
to
will.
see a good clear picture of him because he looked like a pretty good buck.
If I got another one of him tomorrow, if he came back, I'd definitely send it.
I had a friend that I seen a buck yesterday that he killed. He killed an 8-point. He killed it in South Georgia, but it's on the west side of the state. But it was an 8-point he killed with his bow last weekend, and we scored it. It scored 151
Dang.
for 8. That's a big 8-point. It's 21. I think it's 21 inches wide. I forgot the maybe length, but it's scored 151 for 8-point. That's huge. But
That's very big. That's
it, It was 205 pound deer, and it was 6.5 years old.
Wow.
Uh, but he's like that. He leases some land. He's got some around the plantations, and he'll sit there and watch them good bucks. Some good bucks, but he wants to go after them bigger bucks, But he'll kill them a couple real good ones, that scores pretty good by doing that. But he'll take pictures of them real good bucks that anybody else would kill, send them to me and all. He's been a few pictures he sent me. I said, man, I probably had to let air out of that one.
Yeah. I hope I get him.
Well, hopefully you will. But check your camera tomorrow. Let me know.
I definitely will.
I want to take a look at them. All right, Connor, well, I'll let you go. I'm going to check this trap. Do what I need to do. Get myself ready for bed, I guess. A lot going on this week. Try to get them food plots and all ready to plant.
Yeah.
I hope we get some rain, but it's just way too dry up here. All right, buddy. Well, I'll let you go, and I'll talk at you later on. All right.
I appreciate it.
All right, man. Well, you have a good one.
You too.
All right. We'll talk at you later, man. Bye.